Hello and welcome to the Live Lounge at Open Banking Expo Canada 2026. Joining me on the sofa is Eyal Sivan, who is General Manager for North America at Ozone API. Eyal, welcome. Great to have you in the Live Lounge, and you're chairing the main stage. You're back on the main stage again this year. What have you heard so far on the main stage that's kind of got you excited, that gives you hope?
So I think before we talk about what's happened here today, we need to talk about why folks in the room are more excited this year than they have been in previous years. Now, that all comes down to last November's budget announcement, which really doubled down and tripled down on Canada's consumer-driven banking efforts. We are now armed with a refined plan that is a lot more ambitious, that aims further and higher than anything we've seen before, and a new and improved Consumer-Driven Banking Act that is now in front of the Senate. As part of that effort, we have committed to right access by mid-2027, a generalized data portability right through PIPEDA amendments. We've moved oversight from the FCAC to the Bank of Canada. So there's a lot to get excited about. Notwithstanding the exciting event that is Open Banking Expo, a lot has moved since the last time that we convened. And of course, that's what we heard on stage. Primarily Ron Morrow, Executive Director from the Bank of Canada, who's going to be taking the reins on the mandate. He talked about the work that was in flight. While I'm happy to dig into specifically what he said, I think the message that we are not kidding around this time. There is a commitment from all the way up to the Prime Minister's office to get this done. The urgency is there. And really, they're just trying to get the ducks in a row to execute on the plan. I think fundamentally, specifics aside, that's what's got everyone excited is the fact that consumer-driven banking is real. It is happening. It is being built. And that seems to be the theme of the day, that we have moved from talking to building.
Yeah, we heard a lot, didn't we, in the opening few sessions about it being this build year.
Yeah.
What does that mean in reality? And what should sort of those who are in the room here today be taking away from today and actioning?
So what moving to a build posture fundamentally means is starting to check some actual boxes when it comes to work to be done. There are some immediate items that have to be taken care of. First and foremost is selection of a standard. Canada has to land on an actual technical standard to provide certainty to the market that they can begin building. Without a standard, you can't build. There's nothing to build to. The chips on the table indicate that FDX, the Financial Data Exchange API, is likely to be selected as the Canadian standard, but that has not yet happened, and there are conversations happening between the Bank of Canada and FDX to get there. But that's first and foremost what folks should be paying attention to, is that standard selection. In parallel with that is the establishment of a directory and an accreditation process that was also committed to in the legislation. The fact that Canada has taken that route is distinct from the U.S. approach, which didn't call for a directory or any kind of trust framework or formal accreditation. What Canada is doing is much more in line with what you see in the UK and to a certain degree in Europe. So that's exciting, but work to be done. So the next immediate thing that folks should be paying attention to is, what directory? Where is it? How do I get into this directory? What exactly is the accreditation process that I need to follow? And of course, Bank of Canada has to answer those questions. So that's the sort of next part of the build. Once those two items, I guess you could count it as three if you say directory and accreditation are two separate items, but once the technical standard is selected, once an accreditation process is in place and a directory is in place, that will lay the foundation for everything to follow.
So you obviously mentioned a couple of other countries there, the US, the UK. Obviously, Canada has plenty of other jurisdictions to look to, but we've also heard, on the main stage today about how important it is that this is Canada's approach to open banking. What's your take on that?
The Made in Canada approach is interesting because that has been front and center in our open banking discussions since the beginning. How do we make this uniquely Canadian and so on? But now that the rubber is hitting the road, that question becomes a lot more concrete, a lot more real. What do you really mean when you say made in Canada? I think part of that is picking and choosing from the efforts around the world to pick up best practices and make sure that we bring them together in a way that's compatible with Canada. So part of that we already talked about, the directory and accreditation process. That is something we have looked to certain regions and decided to do something different than other regions. So that's part of the Made in Canada approach, is cherry picking what we want to borrow from other places that are down the road. It's often said that the delay that we've experienced has an advantage, and that is being able to learn from others.
Yeah.
So that's one aspect of Made in Canada, cherry picking. The other is doing things that are genuinely new and unique. One of those that comes to mind is a generalized commitment to right access, which you start to see in other regions, but they've sort of come at it in a bottom-up way, whereas we've committed to generalized right access from top down, right there in the legislation that says this isn't just about initiating payments. This is about things like bill switching, bill payments, account switching, etc., with an eye towards a generalized right capability that perhaps goes into open data. So that is unique. Related to that, we're going to be pushing on the stablecoin initiative. You yourself spoke to Ron about that on stage.
Yeah.
And to get to a point where the right access, in other words, payment initiation, is generalized such that it works equally well with stablecoin rails as well as traditional real-time rails as part of our payments modernization initiative, that is something genuinely new. Nobody has created a right access or payment initiation capability in open banking that works with a stablecoin rail or works in a way that's rail agnostic. So the other part of Made in Canada is coming up with solutions that are genuinely new and genuinely ahead of what you see in other regions.
Yeah. All of which just is to say, I mean, this is a great opportunity for Canada at this particular point in time, really.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All the stars are aligned.
Yeah.
There is support, as I said, all the way up to the Prime Minister's office. The geopolitical challenges that Canada is currently facing around sovereignty, that many others are experiencing, can actually be turned around to an advantage, because that gives us the impetus, the desire to make Canada strong. Indeed, Canada Strong was the name of the budget that was released, and it was in that very budget where consumer-driven banking was fleshed out. So I think it's a very exciting time for Canada and a wonderful opportunity for us to put a crucial piece of digital infrastructure in place. Certainly, it's been a long time coming.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Eyal, it's a pleasure to have you in the Live Lounge once again. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.